It's the 31st of July. I'm Arthur S. Falls, and you're listening to episode 11 of Beyond Bitcoin. Once a week, I chat with someone on the cutting edge of thought and development in the crypto economy. Nothing you hear on the show is investment advice, though. If you have money burning a hole in your pocket, donate it to your local library or favourite reputable charity. If you really must invest in something, please, this is important, be sure to ask your parents for permission. The last episode was edited and mastered by a good friend of mine who happens to be a sound engineer, Kerry Guy. With a bit of luck, I'm going to rope him into working on a few more episodes. He didn't do this one though, so don't give me any credit. This episode, Bass Whistling, a NXT community organiser, joins me again to discuss what's been going on in the NXT ecosystem. From a little grand theft crypto to a new altcoin adapter for the next asset exchange, there's a ton of interesting stuff taking place, and Bass is always great value. I get a feeling we're going to be hearing a lot more from these guys over the coming months.
Well, we had some in the last weeks. We had some spectacular security breaches. Not within Next, but with it leaks out when you have a big member. We one of our I don't know if you actually heard about this, but one of our biggest was one of our original stakeholders was robbed of several million Next and 1,170 Bitcoin. That's more than $1 million. But this was really amazing. I've known this guy for a long time, and you think that these whales are smart people. They've been around for a while, so these basically should have kind of made his computer into a bunker. And it turned out, and this was the shock to everyone, that he was storing all his passwords within one plain text document on Dropbox. You at one point, on the one hand, you respect this guy because he's obviously a very experienced trader, and on the other hand, your first reaction is, "You idiot!"
Yeah.
So how did this kind of oh my God, you have $1 million and basically you just put it out in the street, a paper box with tape around it.
So was there any resolution to that?
Well, actually, he put out the largest Bitcoin bounty ever. He said, if anyone can retrieve these Bitcoin from me, because we could see that it was going into a mixer. And he said on Bitcoin Talk, he said, I'm offering a bounty of 43% of this whole thing, which is 500 Bitcoin for anyone.
Yeah.
For anyone who can retrieve it. So we tweeted that, and that got retweeted, of course, because 500 Bitcoin, that's serious money.
I remember seeing that go around, actually. I didn't know what the exact... I actually presumed that was a theft from an exchange.
No, that was from one person's Electrum wallet. He even had the Electrum seed in this plain text thing. I said, oh my God!
Oh no.
And the thief gave him back 462. Basically, he said to him, okay, if you call off the hunt, then I'll give you this back. And he gave it back, and then he started up the hunt again, of course. But it really was a dead end. Turned out it was already completely through a mixer. Actually, quite an interesting discussion came out of that about mixers on the Bitcoin Talk forum. So, how illegal is this when you see 1,170 Bitcoin coming in? Don't you do checks? They didn't. So they said it's not our business to do that check. We're just a mixer. And so you get that whole discussion about, are we pandering to criminals by doing this? Actually, from a philosophical standpoint, it was nice. But if you know the guy, it's really
dark, yeah.
Yeah, but still 462 back. That's at least very lucky. That's still $200,000. So wow.
It's not the end of the game. At least there's. It would be heartbreaking to lose everything.
Yeah, and Beta, the exchange actually froze one of the accounts where half of the Next was sent, and we managed to recoup that.
No way. Awesome.
Yeah, so after we did first they wanted to do it as a PR stunt, I'm very sure, because they already had promised it to us, and then they went out to their community and said, we're going to do this. And then this big hoo-ha broke out. You can't do this because it's not your money. So you can't touch it. So they were in this kind of split position where you had the hardliners who said, it's not your money. You can't give it back. Whatever happens, maybe stolen, but and the other one where they wanted to do it nicely. So eventually we had to go to the police and go through the movements and show them that at least we were willing to do that, so they could get the other guy to say, okay, if you're willing to do the same, then we know. But of course this guy will never do it. So they use that as a basis on saying, okay, you are the one, you'll get it back. See that you do it via an escrow that's trusted by the community, which was me. And 3.2 million Next was refunded, which was really nice.
It's a pretty sad story, but at the same time, it's incredible that everyone pulled together and made it happen in the end.
Exactly, it was that was the nice thing about it. Everybody pulled together on it, both the exchanges, as we who were directly involved, and the communities who were also discussing how should we handle this in the future. And that's really good to see that we were expecting a lot of people to say you're an idiot and live with it, but actually a lot of people said you're an idiot, but now we need to solve it, which is much more constructive.
Yeah, well, it's so easy to make a mistake of tremendous magnitude, and just to have that bit of a community understanding is nice.
Yeah, even on Bitcoin Talk, which really surprised me, because Bitcoin Talk is a harsh environment. But even there, people basically started all their posts with, well, I won't go into the stupidity. so they did mention it, but they also mentioned, yeah, you're feeling bad enough already with 1 million missing, so I'm really not going to tear open the wound.
No, wow.
And of course his wife was angry too, so we already wasn't enough problems at that moment.
Oh man.
Oh yes.
Okay, so multi-gateway, you send your funds to a multi-signature address, which has the keys stored on 3 different servers. The software then issues an asset to be traded on the exchange that can be redeemed for the escrowed funds, basically.
That's the basis of it. It's a combination of multi-signature possibilities with the use of the asset exchange from Next.
This is the most secure, semi-centralized exchange.
It's not completely decentralized.
But, yeah, I mean, that's miles ahead of anything else.
Exactly. That's the aim of the multi-gateway. It's one of the person who made it basically said, okay, we still have this single point of failure within what we are trying to do with cryptocurrency. We're trying to decentralize everything. The systems basically mostly are, but then when we want to trade, we need to go to something that's centralized with all the good and bad things associated with it, because of course there are also good things. Probably you have a single point of contact, but we've seen the bad things that can happen if you have a bad actor,
and we see it all the time, and this is a major leap forward.
What I really like about the concept of the multi-gateway is you put, for instance, we all know, put Bitcoin in, get Dogecoin out, or get Darkcoin out. That's a one-on-one transaction. And some exchanges, of course, also have put Litecoin in, get another coin out. Within the multi-gateway, you can do anything. If the coin is supported, you can do anything. You can put Darkcoin in, get Dogecoin out. put dark coin in, get very coin out, or
Really?
anything.
So you can get a coin, so you can speculatively effectively buy coin is that like at a market rate from the,
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, definitely. It should do the same rates as any other exchange. It goes with them. So that's what I like, the flexibility that they've built in, because it doesn't matter as long as you have this asset in. Doesn't matter where and how you trade it, as long as you have the prices. It takes no extra effort for the multi-gateway to put that in.
effectively that's like a derivative of the coin itself. I mean, see, the way I had envisioned it is you would put in, say, Litecoin, and you would get the equivalent in Litecoin out as an asset on the other end. But what you're saying is you can put in Bitcoin and receive an asset representative of Litecoin in the next asset exchange.
Yeah, actually, how it works is you put in Bitcoin, and for that you get the asset for Bitcoin. But then you can, because it's on the asset exchange, it doesn't matter. So if you then want to exchange it, for instance, for the asset for Litecoin, then the system can do that because it knows the rate, so it can sell it to Next and sell it to Litecoin. And then you get the Litecoin asset, and you can take out the Litecoin asset one-on-one against Litecoin.
Right.
So whatever coin is put into the system, and not all coins can be put in the system yet because they need to have multi-signature. If a coin doesn't have it, we can't use it. We can't set up the servers. But any coin that can do that can be traded in that way. So it's completely flexible, and it doesn't matter where you start.
No, I'm just, I'm looking at what they've got right here. So we've got Bitcoin and Litecoin going right now, and then in development, Darkcoin, Dogecoin, Veracoin, Bitcoin Dark, which I'm actually unfamiliar with, and Earthcoin. And then we got Maxcoin and Startcoin coming soon.
Yeah. These are already basically the ones who are in development have been verified as being able to. We have coins that are supported. That's any coin that is based on Bitcoin and has multi-signature. But these need to be tested on the system first, because every coin has its particular quirks. The ones who are on here as in development have been tested and are supported, but they need to be the 3 servers for every coin need to be tested first, so that they're stable and work with everything.
Right. Yes. Because I suppose in theory it should be a very simple task, but in practice.
Yeah. It's quite a long list that we have. I just posted it to your chat. So I think we have around 20 coins that are possible and that we're researching at the moment. But we still need the people who handle the servers for it. But it's definitely possible, and we will be reaching out to these communities anyway to ask if they're interested in being listed.
The only question I'd have would be about the fees.
The fees are the trade fees for the asset exchange. So for every transaction, the fee is 1 Next, which is at this moment 3 cents, 3 euro cents, 4 cents at this moment. So that's the fees that there are no withdrawal fees, no fees, no different fees. At this moment, it's completely free.
That's pretty good. You know, this is.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the. Because we had these distributed exchanges, everyone was crying out for a distributed exchange, and they came along at the start of the year, and nothing changed. Yeah. But finally, this looks like the functionality that we need to actually move away from these best attempt centralized exchanges.
Yeah, and the nice thing about it too is the code again is open source, so everybody could. We have a universal. It's called the universal multi-gateway, so communities could also set up these servers themselves, and then say, okay, then contact us and say, okay, we want to plug them into your system. That allows also a lot of freedom. Some people don't want to have the servers handled by another community. Well, that's great, because there's more than enough work to do. So if people want to run them themselves, great.
By all means.
Yeah, by all means. That's what it's for. It's even possible, because it's open source, that people copy the software, of course, and start up their own separate the separate multi-gateways, which they then could use for their own projects. That's what we hope to achieve, that people actually start using this, and that's why it's free and relatively easy to implement, as long as you have, again, the multi-signature feature, and people can just use it. And we hope also that people will start. I've been reaching out to a few communities already, and basically the answer that you get is, do you want to be on an exchange? Of course the answer is yes. So of course we want to be on an exchange, and that makes it also very nice, because you get this cooperation that we were talking about earlier between the different communities again, and it's much nicer to open it up and offer each other services. And work together.
To actually have that synergy as opposed to working in opposition.
Yeah, and also because it's about these exchanges. We can now together make an exchange or several exchanges that don't have this single point of failure, and that's basically what we've been waiting for years already. As I said, the system is still in beta, so there definitely will be some quirks and some wrinkles to iron out. But the more people are working on it, the easier that will get. And if someone beats us to the punch, even better, because that's how it grows. We learn.
So what about the digital goods store?
Yes, this is one of the new features that is going to be incorporated in the next release of the next client. That's 1.2.2 as far as I know. It's already on testnet. And the digital goods store is exactly what it says. It's a built-in store which is linked to each account of within Next. Where you can sell digital goods. So you can sell keys, digital keys, you can sell download links, music, games, all these kinds of things that the online systems that we already have, like iTunes or Steam, like they do, the digital goods store can do within NXT. And every account holder can basically open their own shop on their account. It's linked to their account, and they can sell goods just like that.
So I presume that the digital goods are encrypted, and by making the purchase, you receive the keys and a download link. Is that kind of?
That would be the way it works. Yes, and you can encrypt them. You don't have to encrypt them, but of course, if it's a one-time key, then yes, it's a good idea to encrypt them. Yeah, that's basically, and it works on a kind of an escrow system. So you still have to do one manual step yourself, which is basically sending the link. So someone buys it, then there is a time in which this and that can be automated, of course, on the other side. You can make a server that checks for these kinds of transactions and then sends them out automatically after a set amount of confirmations. But the idea is that you then send the link, and after the link has been received by the other account then the funds are released. So not before. It's not like you send the funds and then you wait and hope.
Yeah.
The funds are held in escrow by the system, and only when the sale has been completed on both sides, the money will be released. And after you've received the link or the key or whatever, it's also possible to rate it, to give a rating on that. So these ratings will accumulate to the account that is selling. So there is in the future a possibility to also get a reputation system implemented. That is possible. It's not implemented in this release yet.
I'm always going on about reputation, and because it's such an integral part of, effectively pseudonymous community, but there are some hidden complexities in there that really make what seems simple quite difficult to practically implement.
The problems with these reputation systems and the wrinkles again that need to be ironed out are how do we make it virtually ungameable? That's a really difficult one, because we all know from Amazon and from eBay that it is possible if you put in the time, but you'll earn that back in sales if all goes well. It is gameable.
So this isn't. So this is still in beta, but is it being utilized at all yet?
The multi-gateway is in beta. The Digital Goods Store will be end of this week. If all goes well, will be live. So then it's just part of the core. There is one first user already. This is a German indie band, Sinan Boom, and they are going to release their EP on the Digital Goods Store. And it's actually one of the uses that I'm excited about too, the indie gaming and music world, because it basically gives them an easy outlet to distribute their own works of art.
For money, yeah. It's a bit like iTunes, isn't it? Only without all the faffing around.
Yeah, it's just put it on there, put it on the server, give out the link, know how many you have sold, and done. And if you want to build a website around it that integrates with it, that's possible, definitely. I know there is, for instance, already one website called secureae.com, which is basically a web version of the asset exchange, completely secure, doesn't transmit any passphrases. I can see that very much possible with the Digital Goods Store too. So you can just put up your goods, make an account, put up your goods, sell them, collect the money very easily, and done.
But you could then exchange next for, say, a Bitcoin asset or a Litecoin asset or a Darkcoin asset, and take that to another exchange. Or potentially, do you have a Fiat to Next exchange?
Yes, so you could probably take it to the multi-gateway then and cash them out there.
Yeah.
I need to ask that. Actually, this is an idea that I now just get. I don't know if that's possible in that way, or that they have all the asset locked up into the servers. But it potentially gives a very easy way to cash out in different currencies.
The more flexibility. It seems like that should be possible. If you can buy an asset with Next, then in theory you should be able to purchase it and then cash it out from the multi-gateway. Yeah.
Well, where it's at least possible, because this is also a new thing. This person that made the multi-gateway goes by the forum name JL777.
That guy is a machine.
He is. He pushes more hours into a day than anyone I've ever seen, and once in a while he has a small nervous breakdown, but then he sleeps for a day and then he's off again, because he's also the first that managed to take an asset on the asset exchange and move it to a real exchange outside. one of his assets, which is called JL777 HODL, or JLH for short, is now traded on Poloniex as a coin.
And that's a kind of that whole that's a an asset that represents a percentage
It's
of all of his created assets. Is that correct?
Yeah, no, it's even larger. It's a trading fund. So he actually finds time to invest in several ventures that he thinks are really interesting and will either become short-term or long-term money makers. He invests in them, and that coin represents that investment fund, and also gives out dividends, etc., etc.
Does it give out
And
dividends?
I think
Because
it gives out dividends even.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's incredible. That's really exciting. I'm going to have a look at that. 'Cause
because he also invented a dividend distribution module.
jeez,
He is really a machine. He is quite amazing in what he does, and he's so prolific. We have a few people within the community that basically spend most of their time auditing his code, because that's also needed.
yeah.
Um, and that's apparently a full-time job almost. He just pumps out reams of code, and people audit it, go back to him, and he reworks it again. He's been working on the multi-gateway for, I think, 6 months. He started out in January somewhere, and he said, I'm going to do this. And people laughed at him and said, yeah, you'll never manage that. And after 6 months, he now finally has made it. And that's amazing.
It is. And I don't know, do we have any idea who this guy is?
I know where he lives, vaguely, but for the rest, I don't. I know he's a man. That's as far as I get. He lives in Argentina, and I know he has a wife,
A very understanding wife.
very understanding wife probably, and that's about the extent of knowledge. And the rest is the reams of text that he creates on the forums with very many plans. And the nice thing now is he has a large group of people. For the multi-gateway, there's a very large group of people taking over right now and working on this stuff. So because you can't do this on your own. That's why some people have said he's doing so much it must be insecure, but we have several people checking the code. It's not as if anything goes. It's not, here I've written it, trust it. It's okay, here I've written it, and then some people really get down on it, whose actually real life professions is code auditing, and they take out anything and get it back to him. So sometimes it's maddening, but he's certainly not alone on this.
How many assets has he created? I mean, so many. Maybe
I think about 10 at the moment. 8 to 10. Several venture funds. Also, just as Multi-Gateway has its own dividend asset, which will pay out almost nothing because the only fees that we have are the next fees. But he has a lot of these crowdfunding-like assets. And sometimes it goes wrong because and it's one of the scandals that has been mentioned within NXT, that there was a direct payment to a developer who then left with the money. And yeah, that can happen. That won't happen in the future again this way, but we make mistakes.
really. So a developer was paid, and
Yeah,
he just absconded with the cash.
yeah, but no contract and paid up front, and that's not really the way you want to do it, of course.
So, what kind of solution would you suggest for that kind of problem? I mean, would you use, say, multi-signature addresses with disinterested parties?
That's a possibility. If you have a larger group where you have a virtual company, this would certainly be a way. Ironically enough, this developer was the one who was supposed to make this kind of system, where it would be absolutely safe. You could put in the money that what came out of the assets into a kind of multi-signature place where all the officers that were named and the officers would be accounts would have multi-signature rights on that account. And that's the guy who left. So that's very ironic. What also is possible is what we do in our MMO that we are developing is milestones. We pay out by milestones. So first you produce the result, or at least most of the result, and then you get paid per milestone. And we make those milestones in direct negotiations with the developers. We say, okay, what do we need to have? When do we have something from which we can eventually, if you would leave, work on? That would constitute a milestone to me. And you get paid on result. That's also a very honest way.
Yeah, well, you need to find some way like that is not only can ensure that work takes place before payment is made, but also to allow a developer to leave a project and another developer to pick up where they left off, right?
Yeah, definitely. So that's where the milestone idea would come in. You need to identify places. Okay, this is a finished stage, and then you would reconsider. Okay, say, okay, this went well. Do you want to stay on? And probably you go, of course, for a completed product. But I would think that milestones where someone else could come in and start up the work again would be a good idea for software development, at least. But this system of virtual corporations that we were thinking about, and the concept is still very valid, is basically that you would have the possibility to almost completely trustless again pay the money. So you could also do a salaried structure that at a set point in time the money would be paid out. That's a next step in next. We are going to get that kind of functionality, but it's not a priority at this moment. It's called account control, and that would mean that you could lock it for certain amounts of time per day or only unlock it during certain hours, and you could set these things. But that's future tech.
Right, yeah. And also, I suppose, at this very second, it's not central to the functioning of the platform.
No, it's an extra. It's all these things can be done already manually, and that, of course, gives you a point of failure, but it's not critical. If you don't have it, it doesn't mean that the whole system becomes worth less. It's if it is in there, of course, the system will be that much more usable.
Yeah. And it just provides those extra tools. The feature set of NXT is expanding so fast and just so broadly. I remember when I talked to you a couple of months ago, it might have been 3 months ago even. It was, or 10 weeks. It was, at the time, it was the most expansive feature set, and you guys had more assets than anyone else. And now, I mean, you've just streaked ahead even further. I think there's so much buzz about other platforms out there, and what strikes me about NXT is that you have with BitShares you have a very centralized model. I shouldn't say a very centralized development model, and Ethereum has a more decentralized development model than BitShares, it seems. NXT is completely anarchic. You guys are people are just doing it.
Yeah, well, we have a small core team, so it's not that we have umpteen people working on and pulling in different. We have one lead developer that's called Jean-Luc, He makes the final decisions on which thing gets implemented before the other, because he has the complete overview. Then we have a few people who are working on, now we have 4 different people, Java developers, who are working on separate parts, and they're completely autonomous within their part. We have one person who has developed the voting system now. We have one person who is developing actually a scriptable language at the moment. We now have 3 projects that are working on a scriptable language. It turned out today. I had to laugh when I heard that one, because they all can do separate things, and everybody is now asking, why the hell are you doing 3? Ethereum is doing 1. Don't make it more difficult. So that's another discussion. But yeah, we have a lot of people who are enthusiastically working, and there's a few very interesting things coming out in the coming 3 months again. So did you good still, but the next one is even possibly more exciting, which is monetary systems, which means that you can create coins on top of the blockchain. Any coin, a POS coin, a proof of work coin, you can put it on top of the blockchain and you can start mining even.
And so when you say a proof of work coin, mining would then be a means of distribution as opposed to securing the coin, because Next takes care of that security.
Exactly, but it has the added. Sometimes a proof of work, that system of distribution has advantages over, or you can use it as an advantage, but you can also use it as like mining is sometimes also a very attractive thing to do. Mining is fun in a way, because it gives this idea that you get something for nothing. Of course, this is not true, but it was the feeling that I always had when I was mining. It's, oh man, you can create them out of air. It's and well, I can imagine that it's very attractive to people. I know that there's one project, I don't know if it's on hold, but I found it really interesting, is a proof of work coin. And the concept has been brought up a few times on Bitcoin Talk already, I think. When you place ads on a website and you put some code in there, the longer that someone is looking at this page where this ad is displayed, it mines for you. And it mines a specific coin, which would incentivize the person who is running this site to keep people longer on the site, which would incentivize getting good content, because then they stay, and then your coin gets mined. So it's a complete turnaround of the idea of advertising.
Yeah, that's really fascinating.
Yeah, so these kinds of things are being developed, and especially the coins on top would allow a company could create, in principle, for instance, loyalty coins on top of the blockchain, no problem. And they could keep this in their own, under their own control. So it's not a cryptocurrency in that sense, because it's controlled, but they can use it and they can distribute it, or they can make something attractive around it, and it has no influence on the other coins on the blockchain. So, yeah. I'm very curious what will happen there.
It's interesting to think about loyalty reward coins, because we were discussing this a while ago, and the problem with creating coins like that is, I think at the core of a loyalty coin is that it is not fungible. It is only usable for a controlled set of purposes.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's kind of like, it's not something you can use as an asset on the exchange necessarily. It's something that needs to be, that necessarily needs to be in a controlled environment.
Yeah, and it doesn't escape from that environment, because otherwise weird things happen. The weird, I'm not talking end of the world, but
no, it's funny to imagine.
If it escapes out into the market, then then it basically at this point, because we were already with the asset exchange thinking of this too, at this point these things are possible if you keep all these assets within one account, and then you can still play with it. In principle, it's possible to use them in that way already. But with this monetary system, you can completely screen them off into your own system, of course. And yet then it would be interesting, I think. One use of them would be interesting.
Yeah. I just right now I have this image in my mind of loyalty rewards escaping the prison of their of their.
Get out! It's a kind of jailbreak. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
Those subway stamps, finally escaping into the world of real money. Which they did actually. Subway stamps did become commoditized toward the end there.
And the same with real stamps. Postage stamps have been used in the last century for this as real money.
Yeah.
Because they're money for a while when minting was down, postage stamp have taken these functions, so it's definitely possible.
And it is ridiculous, just the weird things the weird possibilities that are emerging now. I've been having a discussion with this guy about Delulu actually, who I think was in that discussion on the next forum about DPoS and transparent forging. And well, he was talking about figuring out what kind of concrete social implications of cryptocurrency we can expect to see.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to actually provide a satisfactory response to a question like that.
Yeah, I think that we can't even really answer that question at this moment. We can see a few things, of course, and some people think of weird ways of using it. But it's one of the things that I have with the asset exchange. It's that people still talk about it as an exchange, like we know it from the centralized exchanges that we're talking about. And basically, it's not that. It's just something to exchange tokens in whatever way you want. That's why I'm very glad that James, JL77, managed to get one out there, let it escape into Poloniex, because that's thinking outside of the box. Basically, it already is a coin. It's not an asset anymore. It now behaves like a coin for most people. But the multi-gateway is a similar thing. It's not the really exchange. It's just shoving tokens around and seeing what you can do with that. And it turns out it can change into a very flexible system. And I think that these kinds of things have much more implications than we at this moment can. Maybe it won't even be a currency in the end. Maybe it will turn into something completely different and revolutionized than we can think of right now. I wouldn't be surprised.
It's strange that it's not strange. It's interesting that you bring up the point that the asset exchange is not just a exchange for trading cryptocurrencies, because you mentioned this when I spoke to you a long time ago, and the whole idea kind of slipped my mind, a bit like the messaging service.
Yeah, and we tend to, at the start, to confuse the use cases, the most obvious use case, with what the system is. So we have the use case of using the messenger system for messages, but that's a use case. That's not what it does. And the same with the asset exchange. It's the name narrows the view. It's a use case of it to use it as a system to exchange these what we now call assets, but it's just a token. The messaging system, for instance, only one person I think so far has made it into something different, which is basically just a button for payout. We now have leased forging. So you can lease out your forging power without giving away your coins to a specific account. So you can actually make some next by forging in a group. And to get your coins out, you send a blank message to that master account. And after 1414 confirmations, which is basically our turn-up point, it sends you the coins that are allocated to your account. And basically that's just a withdrawal button. It's nothing more. But that's the only case of a different use of the arbitrary messaging system that I've seen yet.
I suppose it can take a while for these things, for these new use cases to come along. I think of phone lines or telegraph lines, really. It's the basic technology, and then, you went from the phone, and then it wound up being used for the telegraph, which was more practical at the time. And ultimately we see internet being piped through it right now. I mean, vast amounts of information, and everything from financial transactions to email, fax, voice.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the same principle. It's still data via a wire. That hasn't changed. But what that data does in the end and what form it takes, that's why I think it's really difficult to imagine where it will go, because the end products have nothing to do with the actual thing that's happening in between. It's still sending data, but the things that come out on the other end are completely different.
And that's that's the magic of the medium.
Yeah, I think so. And people will keep up thinking, as long as they can think in abstract terms into shoving tokens around, and then think of ways what that could actually do, then they will keep making new discoveries in, okay, you can do this with it too. Because the tokens are completely neutral. They're just a token with a name. That's it. It personalizes it to your account or to your use. Nothing else.
Yeah.
So I'm really we're definitely not. We definitely haven't seen the last yet. And I would be very curious if it keeps being currency in the end, or if it morphs into a completely different thing that also is decentralized but makes it much broader in scope.
It's kind of impossible to anticipate a new use case, because the possibilities are literally endless. So what about you? Do you have any speculative plans in the cryptocurrency or projects in the cryptocurrency world, Bas?
The thing that I've been working on for 6-7 months now with a small group within Next already, which came from actually the mining idea. We were discussing how do you make proof of stake fun, because we all had this magic idea about mining, that excitement. So from that came very slowly the idea of building an actual MMO. Some other people have had that idea too, but ours is probably a bit more ambitious. It's actually, we're at this moment building towards the alpha of an MMO, a trading MMO, in which you have an in-game currency based on Next, which can actually be traded to the outside world. And the whole idea, for people who know EVE Online, they know the anarchic system that functions there. It's a complete sandbox where the fun in the game is based upon the actions of all the players in concert, and it's emergent. So we're not going to be involved in the actual linear gameplay, but it will. The idea is that it will slowly actually evolve from the actions of the players. So people can take any kind of life decision within the game, as long as they, of course, can supply themselves with a living in game. and it's survival of the fittest. But the idea that we want to explore is how it will work if you can actually link the outside economy with the inside economy. And basically first that will be the next economy with the in-game economy. But once you have next, you could basically even move out into the real economy. And we're working on that. We're working toward alpha stage in November. And it's terribly exciting. It's nice to build something that you would want to play yourself.
I spoke to Ian a while ago, and I think is he involved in this project as well?
Yeah, he's one of the technical guys in there. Ian is one of the persons, and 3 other people are working on it too. And we now have a team of 3 developers working on it outside. One is basically building a new blockchain for us because it will be blockchain based, which at some point should be linked to the next blockchain. We still haven't figured out how to do that. Yeah, and we have one person who is working on who has been working on an AAA grade MMO. I'm not allowed to tell which one, but it's one of the big ones that everybody knows. He's one of the persons who has been responsible for the servers there, which is one of the most crucial things for building an MMO. And he's now working on figuring out how to marry blockchain technology to MMO server technology, which is quite a challenge, apparently.
Is it? It seems like one of the. Oh, you just make it one of those things. Just put the currency on a blockchain. It's easy, man.
Well, you have the decision between the blockchain moves at a certain pace. It has blocks,
yes,
which are generated. But for instance, if you would incorporate combat in the game, you can't wait.
No,
it's not that you slash and then wait for confirmation. That would be really boring. So some actions would need to be basically real time, and the results of the actions need to be written to the blockchain because that's where they're stored. And some actions, like for instance the trade system or the crafting system, the crafting system will be huge because it needs to accommodate a lot of different things to support the complete economy. That will also probably be done within the blockchain. But once you take the information out to be used in the game, it needs to become real time again. And that's amazingly difficult as far as I heard him tell.
Well, the architecture would have to be a bit different as well, wouldn't it? Or, you'd be, rather than storing transactions, you'd be maintaining account balances, I'd have thought.
Yeah, exactly. And they need to be retrieved at a certain time to be handled, and I'm very happy that I'm only part of the graphical and the marketing part of the whole thing, because if I hear these guys talking in the IRC channel, I go slightly mad. This is so far above your head. Sometimes you pick up snippets like what I tell you now that you understand. So, okay, I can get this, the difference between the blocks and the real time. But then if they start thinking about how to actually do this, that's very, very far away from me. But it's a very, very ambitious project. So it will start out small in scope and then scale. Because the ideas that we have are impossible to put in the first time, but that allows us to grow the game over the time scale of, let's say, a year and a half into a much more mature form, while at the same time keeping everybody interested with adding new features without cost. It's free to play.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, definitely. We don't want any payment system. This is one of those things. the hidden costs, freemium games. We're not going to do that.
It's just much more fun and just enjoyable to use a game that is to play a game that you can just load up and monetize it in other ways, like Dota 2. I've been playing tons of Dota, and I mean, I it sucks up all your time. I stopped. I weaned myself off it, and I've been back on it again, wasting the time.
Yeah, and it's amazing. I've been, well, a few periods in my life I was completely addicted to EVE Online, and basically I always gravitated towards either trading or mining. And the weird thing is, mining in EVE Online is really the most boring thing that you can think of. You're really sitting in front of an asteroid and just pointing a laser at it, and that's it. And then you get a book and read until the cycle is complete. I actually got a lot of reading done, but it's still, in some way, it's addictive. And that's interesting. That it's again the same thing as real mining with, I think that actually was our inspiration too, because it's actually also with running a miner, you go back and you say, I've got extra coins on my account now. And the EVE Online mining has the same kind of buzz to it. You do nothing, and still you get the idea you're doing something. You can even work during your game, do normal work.
That passive involvement. It's a new concept. Yeah, I think of Minecraft, but you don't get that in that. I mean, part of the reason I gave up on Minecraft was because I was spending way too much time just chipping away at blocks and and it just got a bit.
And this is also part of the magic of all these Zynga games that are on Facebook. You can. From a lot of perspectives, they're despicable time sinks, but they do work. And it's putting a cow in a field. Come on. But it works in some weird way. This kind of building feel. So you're building your farm. And it's really simplistic, but it works in its way. And well, if you can take the best out of that, the engagement and the idea that you actually can build something which the makers of the game didn't anticipate, that's what we're hoping for, just like in EVE Online. That makes it fun, I think. I would really love it. It should be possible in the game, for instance, that a small settlement naturally occurs in a place that's economically more viable than another one, just like in the real world. It flourishes into a city. The city at some point gets destroyed by a war, but one of the players has written a book about it in-game. This book can still exist, so you get a real history in the game, and that's something I have never. EVE Online has that. But I've never seen any game like that really has this feel of history to it over the years. If you look at World of Warcraft, basically it's a static model. Nothing changes. The only thing that changes is the players running around. I would really like it if we could do something like that.
So where can people learn about your project and some of these other ones?
At this moment, just on the forums. We're working on external website at the moment, but we're working on the server side right now. That's not the most exciting thing to show to people. So once we have something, we will launch our own external website, because we also want to move outside of the Next community, of course. The rest is nxtforum.org is still the best go-to place. For most information. There's a sub-forum called Next Project, and there's a whole big forum with all our technical projects for the Next core, and they can check it out there. They're very welcome, and we welcome anyone on the forums.
Okay, and then we've got multigateway.com for the multi-gateway.
Yeah.
And the digital goods store, that's you need to go to the forums for that as well, don't you?
Yeah, that's on the forums, and we're opening up a few new threads on Bitcoin Talk this week for these very specific things, because we think they deserve their own space and their own kind of community that uses it. So people could find them at the end of the week, probably also on Bitcoin Talk under the altcoin section.
Well, thanks a bunch, Bas. I'm going to have to go to work.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'll be in touch. It's always great having you on. I mean, you're always great to talk to about these things, and
so many opportunities at this moment. So there's always something to do.
That's it for this week, folks. Pertinent websites can be found in the notes. Thanks to Bas Wisselink for the content, Cesis for the music. And, while we're here, how about a magic word, eh? This time let's make it hippopotamus. I'll see you guys next week.